All right, welcome to the Fantasy and Frames production of the Dynasty Evaluation Show. Got some great guests here today. We're going to talk about tiers, my favorite thing, Dynasty tiers. Tiers help you draft in your rookie drafts coming up in the offseason. So let's get ready to talk tiers. All right, so today we have some awesome. I'm John McGlynn. You can find me on the X at John McGlynn75. This is the wonderful Fantasy and Frames show. I got my guy, my co-host with the Mohos, JT. JT, what's going on besides the 17,000 drafts that we're drafting right now?
I know it's like we can't get out these rookie tiers quick enough. Like I'm in so many drafts already started. I was like, man, we got to get out these tiers and start getting stuff out there because drafts are freaking hot and heavy right now. Every time I take a nap or don't look at my phone for like 35, 40 minutes, my phone's blowing up. Like, where are you at, dude? You're on the clock. And I'm like, oh, it's like, it just never fails. It's like, it doesn't get to me right until I have something going on, or it always gets to me at like 3 a.m. right after I go to sleep. And then everybody's like, where are you at? You got 20 minutes left. And I'm like, just waking up at like 8 or 9 o'clock. And then everybody's like, oh, you're almost, your time's up. I'm like, it's wild. but it's draft season, baby. We're going on them. So I love it. Rookie draft time's the best.
I went to bed last night about 11:45, 11:50. That's the last time I saw the clock. Put my phone. Woke up at 4 a.m. to go to the bathroom. I had 181 messages on my Twitter, and I cleared it out before I went to bed. All that shit going on for 5 hours in the midnight, and that's from all these drafts. It's absolutely crazy. But so we got an awesome guest today. Hopefully you probably draft more than we do. So it's one of those deals. John Laub, thanks a lot, man. I hear you all the time. This is the first time I've actually had you on the Dynasty Evaluation podcast. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for coming here today, man. Thanks for being part of the show.
Well, thank you for having me on. And I actually have started 2 drafts, and both of them we've hit a speed bump because they're actually with people from overseas, and you have the time change, right? So we have to wait, and that's fine. It's just one of those things, you get real anxious. You want to make your first pick. But I understand the reality. We have all summer, technically, so I have to be patient. But I just submitted my Dynasty rookie rankings for Superflex and 1 quarterback leagues. I wrote my fantastic freshman article for the 11th year. I spent basically 48 straight hours pumping that stuff out. They'll be on Player Profiler. I just sent them in, so hopefully they'll be up and available to read very soon. But it is Dynasty season, right? This is what we're all here for. Starting around the holidays, I've been working on these rookies. Now let's see if I can draft some and let improve my leagues.
Yeah, it's fun drafting them. It's super fun. I got another draft later. We had a mock draft later tonight on Fantasy and Frames. Me and JT are part of it also. So on top of all the rest of the drafts, these mock drafts are coming. It is absolutely awesome time. This is the best time of the year. All these people who do redraft are always like, oh man, I can't wait for the season to be over with. There's nothing to do. I think besides setting lineups being a pain in the butt, like in the end season, I have been busier than I have been the last 5 years trying to do all this stuff. It's absolutely awesome, man. And Fantasy and Frames, all these guys on Fantasy and Frames, I'm one show on here. If I'm not on here, there's a show before me. There's a show after me. There's 2 shows, tomorrow. There's 3 shows the next day. Pumping out content like crazy. So if you get a chance, subscribe to Fantasy and Frames. Absolutely wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So today we have some tiers we're talking about. This is what the point of the show is here. We're going to discuss rookie tiers for your Dynasty Fantasy Football rookie mock drafts. So we're going to jump right into it today. So we're going to do tiered quarterbacks. We're not tier 1 is Caleb Williams, so we're going to leave him out for the sake of just argument here. So let's go start with tier 2. In what order do you prefer these quarterbacks that are going in first and second rounds of fantasy rookie Superflex mock drafts? We have Jaden Daniels, J.J. McCarthy, Drake May, Michael Penix, and Bo Nix. So if that's the case, what are we, JT? What do you think? Who do we start here? What are the tiers you have here with these quarterbacks?
Yeah, so if I'm coming up in drafts, I'm kind of looking at what I need. Obviously, 1 QB and Superflex are different for me. If we're going 1 QB, Jalen Daniels is up there for me as with the rushing prowess for him. He kind of moves up on my list. If we're going super flex here, I'm kind of looking at options, who goes where. I'm not completely sold on Daniels. I know I've said this like all off season. I'm not completely sold on him at 2, but I would probably take him at 2. I'm actually leaning JJ McCarthy as my number 3 guy. I just really like that situation. The Vikings, I like the offensive coordinator. I like the wide receivers. So he's probably my 3. Drake May is going to be my 4. Bo Nix is probably the guy you're gonna see the most time if you need a starter. Nix, but I'm actually leaning Penix over Nix for me personally. If I don't have to start him, I'd rather take the chance on Penix sitting him and having him long term. I have this real bad feeling that Nix is gonna get in there, play. The Broncos aren't gonna be good. It's gonna get blamed on him. And could we get one of these situations where they end up drafting near the top of the draft again next year, and then they end up trying to get another quarterback to replace him? So I'm a little nervous there. If I gotta have a starter, Nix looks like he's probably gonna be the guy this year. But if I have time to wait, I'm taking Penix.
So I'm going to say Jayden Daniels is obviously my number 1. I think he's set up for success with the Commanders. The next one is JJ McCarthy for me, the Vikings. I'm going to go on a limb and say that he sits behind Darnold for at least a half year, though. I feel like he's been the product of a lot of great teams around him, not so much elevating the team he's on, but just the team has been elevating him. So he's got a little bit to prove, a little bit to learn, but I think he's going to be in, we're talking Dynasty here. So the long term, I think he's my number 2. Drake May, the Patriots. Patriots knew that this is either draft Drake May or keep playing the quarterback carousel. So I'm thinking Jacoby Brissett is good enough to maybe give May some competition, but ultimately I think May wins this job. So even though I don't think he's going to have enough offensive power as J.J. McCarthy will have when he gets his opportunity. Michael Penix, probably waiting 2 years to start him, but even so, I don't like Bo Nix at all. Nix, it's probably a desperation pick. I can't wait for this scab replacement player, Sean Payton, to get laughed out of town and go back to coordinating for the rest of his career. I can't stand him. I want Bo Nix. Not that I want Bo Nix to fail, but at the same time, Sean Payton is my new version of everybody else. He's my new enemy enemy number 1 in the NFL right now. But I think Bo Nix isn't that good. The team isn't that good. I don't think the coaching is that good. Sean Payton rode Drew Brees' coattails his whole career. So it's one of those things where that's my 5. So John, what do you think as far as tiers are concerned in this tier? Where are you at?
I have Caleb Williams and Jayden Daniels in the same tier based on ceiling. The rushing upside of Jayden Daniels just cannot be overlooked. I clearly have Caleb Williams as a better passer than Jayden Daniels, but when you look back and he had 1,100 yards rushing for LSU last year, I do not think he's as dynamic as Lamar Jackson, but he's in the bucket. And if anyone's old enough to remember Randall Cunningham,
yes,
I think Daniels got a little Randall Cunningham in him. He could be very special. So I have Williams and Daniels together. I'm going to be a little bit different here. I have J.J. McCarthy 3rd. I think he's in the best landing spot. The longer I've done this is my 11th year doing rankings. This is my 45th year watching the NFL draft and watching football. Landing spot, teammates, coaching staff are just so important. Is anyone really believe Patrick Mahomes wins 3 Super Bowls if he lands with the Jets or the Arizona Cardinals? Please. He landed in the absolute best spot possible with Andy Reid and sitting for basically a year behind Alex Smith. Landing spot is everything. J.J. McCarthy's 20 years old. You have to project. What can this young man be in 3 years, 4 years? What you are looking at is a very good coaching staff. He has a solid offensive line. I believe they're top 5 graded in PFF, and we can argue if PFF is the best or if you like Mernapa. However you look at that offensive line is solid. And I'm sorry, when you are looking at J.J. Jefferson, you are looking at Jordan Addison. You have a possibility of T.J. Hawkinson, a tight end, who was having an incredible season last year. If you didn't notice, he was spectacular and before the injury. And then you add Aaron Jones, a pass-catching, dynamic, home run hitting back. McCarthy's in a perfect spot to land. Then I'm going to go Drake May, but I am concerned. I have no confidence in the Patriots organization. I don't know if they bring in a defensive guy and that pass catching core. I'm very happy. They got Polk and they got my favorite receiver in the class, the young man from UCF. And why all of a sudden I should remember him and all of a sudden I can't.
Javon Baker.
What?
Javon Baker.
Javon Baker. Sorry. Just went blank. Old man problems. So they are trying to upgrade the wide receiver position, but I don't love the landing spot. John, you're going to disagree with me. I think Bo Nix is going to be okay with Sean Payton. I do. Sean Payton wants the ball out of his quarterback's hands immediately. I think the one big problem they had with Russell Wilson, he liked to stand back in that pocket. He liked to scramble around. And then he threw those deep balls down the field all the time. Peyton wants a 3-step drop, look, throw. That's what Bo Nix can do. And I think Peyton benched Russell Wilson. He could not stand one more time where the receiver was open on the slant and Russell Wilson didn't throw the football. I think he just could not take it anymore. Penix is the X factor. When does he get on the field? It's just really that simple. Is he on the field in 2025 or 2026? How healthy is Kirk Cousins? There's a little bit of a time delay with Penix, so I have him a little lower. I like my dynasty quarterbacks to get on the field as soon as possible, unless I'm getting them in the second round. But if I'm spending a first round, I would like to see the player on the field sooner rather than later.
I hope you're right with the Bo Nix. Obviously I don't want to see anybody fail except Sean Payton.
No, of course not. I get it.
But yeah, Bo Nix. I mean, he ran the slant boy, role for the Michael Thomas forever. I understand where you're coming from. I can envision Bo Nix being that guy, just dropping him. I get it. I hope that does happen where he proves me wrong here. But yeah, this is, I think, consensus wise, I think we're kind of on the same page here. But only time will tell. For these guys, it's nice to have 6 quarterbacks drafted in the first round. It is pretty nice though. It was a treat for the draft anyway. I'll put it that way.
Can I just say one thing? Remember last year, everyone was telling you to sell your dynasty first round in 2024. This is going to be a bad draft. And even as late as January, I heard this was a bad draft. All of a sudden, with 6 quarterbacks, the deepest wide receiver group, and sneaky good running backs, everyone is salivating to get into this draft. And I just
Absolutely.
think literally 1 year ago, there were people telling you to sell your picks, get out of the 2025 draft, and now you can argue in a super flex league, 6 quarterbacks might go off in the first round. I don't think they should, but we know how desperate teams are that they could go off in the first round, which just presents a boatload of value in rounds 2 and 3.
I'm absolutely trying to trade back in every draft I'm in the second and third round because there's so much value there. You're getting so many good players that in other years would probably go late first, beginning a second, and I'm loving those guys. Those guys. So I'm even getting guys in the third round that, like, in other years I would be begging to take them in the second, and I'm just like pumped that they're getting me in the third. And people are like, third round draft picks don't count. They never work out. And I'm like, man, I love these guys. If they don't work out, it's okay. But I was like, there's a lot of guys I want to take a chance on and put in my rosters in this second and third round of this draft. That's for sure.
Well, let's get to this.
My rankings, I have 30 guys who I feel pretty good about. So that gives you in the middle of the third round. After that, we can take intelligent selections based on landing spot and talent. But I have 30 guys who I feel good. So that's my last must get tier, right? I want to be in the top 30.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah. So JT was just talking about second, third, and even in some of these cases, 4th round picks for what we're talking about here. This is the rest of the quarterbacks here. So we're talking about Spencer Rattler, Joe Milton, Michael Pratt, Devin Leary. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say Spencer Rattler is probably my out of this tier. I put Spencer Rattler first, and then JT knows my love for Joe Milton. I know it's going to be Joe Milton's going to be on almost the top of the list every time we talk about these lead quarterbacks. As much as I know that I should probably put Michael Pratt in front of him, I'm going to put Joe Milton there, and then Michael Pratt, and then Devin Leary as far as that goes in the order of my how I would want these quarterbacks to go. Just because I think Rattler's kind of getting shortchanged here. I think he wins this job outright sooner than later, I believe, in New Orleans. So Joe Milton is just me crossing my fingers, just kind of hoping that maybe things don't work out. And a guy that's just you could throw the ball a mile, who can run fast. I know he's got accuracy concerns. I know that he doesn't throw the ball very well. He doesn't read the defense very well. But sitting around for a year or two with a decent coaching staff, I think he'll do Joe Milton some wonders. So, like I said, I should flip-flop Michael Pratt and Joe Milton, but it's going to be Milton. It's going to be Rattler, Milton, Pratt, and Devin Leary for that matter. Devin Leary is a distant fourth here, by the way. So, JT, how about you?
Yeah, for me, I'm John. I have to be honestly shocked. I can't believe you didn't have Milton first in this tier. I'm like, there's no way that you're drafting Rattler over Milton. If it comes out to it, and it gets there, you're taking Milton. I know you're drafting Milton over him, Probably. But I appreciate you going back there because I know you're taking Milton. I'm taking Rattler here first for me in the second tier of guys. I'm Milton just for the upside. Is there a chance he never sees the field ever? I think very likely, but just the huge high upside of him, I'm taking a chance on him, especially if I'm taking him in my 5th round of my rookie draft. I'm taking a flyer, late, a guy that I'm going to put on my taxi squad. I like Milton. Pratt is third for me. I think Pratt has a legit chance at winning the backup job in Green Bay. I'm not a big Clifford guy. I was shocked when he was the backup last year for them. So I could see Pratt winning that job. And Devin Leary, to me, I'm not even drafting if it's my last pick. I'm picking someone else. I was really shocked that Devin Leary picked to Baltimore. It just doesn't seem like a good landing spot. That's not the type of offense he runs. It was very strange to me. I saw him at the combine. I didn't like him at all. I thought he was a lot better 2 years ago at North Carolina State. But that would be my guys. I would definitely be Rattler, Milton, Pratt, Leary.
John, how about you?
So I have by far Rattler higher. I think Rattler's in a very nice spot landing with the Saints. He gets a quarterback, Derek Carr, who I'm not in love with, but he's likely to start the whole season unless it completely falls apart in New Orleans. So I think that's very good news because I do not think Rattler's ready to play at the NFL level yet. Like, it would be a nightmare like Tommy DeVito had to start for the Giants. I don't want to see Rattler go in. I think he needs that year. He needs a little mentorship with the coaching staff and hopefully the veteran quarterback and really learn the speed of the game, mature, and understand what it means to be on an NFL roster every Sunday. Now, I'm going to be a little different here. Second, it's Michael Pratt. I saw a ton of Michael Pratt at Tulane. I've been watching him since the COVID season. It was amazing that he got the job immediately. I think he arrived on the Tulane campus like mid-August. So he arrived on the campus very late, and he ends up immediately starting for the Green Wave. He leads them into their best season in 2022. They lost some talent, including Tajay Spears last year. Now, he does have dual threat capabilities at Tulane. I don't know if at the NFL level he's going to replicate that from a fantasy standpoint, but he can maneuver the pocket. Also, the Packers in general have been very good at identifying talent at the quarterback position. So if Green Bay likes this and took a flyer on him, and if he remains active, it's very important. I'm going to be watching throughout the year. Is Rattler on the active list for the Packers weekly? If he is, that means the team has enough confidence that he could go into a game. So I like Rattler. And John, I'm not trying to disagree with you. I will own no shares of Bazooka Joe.
Oh, no.
Zero. He can't hit the broad side of a barn.
It's a good thing you weren't in the same league.
High school. We've heard this at Michigan. We've heard this at Tennessee. This is all I'm going to say about Bazooka Joe. He played in a Josh Heupel offense, and there's nothing that Josh Heupel wants to do more than throw the football. Well, he had Bazooka Joe, and you know what he did with Bazooka Joe? Handed the ball off. He went to a 3-headed monster in the backfield, and he said, Bazooka Joe, I'm not going to allow you to throw the football. I get that he throws the ball 70 yards, but quarterbacking is much more than throwing the football. If he's been benched by Harbaugh, he's been benched by Heupel. Remember, he lost a job to Hendon Hooker. He was I'm out. I'm done. I will have 0 of him. Leary, let's see if he makes the team. He doesn't fit the mold of a backup to Lamar Jackson, so I have some questions, but I did like his 2021 film at North Carolina State. Then he gets hurt in 2022. Did not love him last year at Kentucky. Let's see if he makes the roster.
So I think you're just mad because you didn't get a chance to get any Joe Milton shares in your drafts, and you're just taking out.
Hey, at least you guys know you're not going to be, if you're in any leagues together, you're not going to be fighting over him.
Yeah.
He's all yours, McGlynn. He's all yours.
That's right. He's all mine. He'll be gone way before you get there anyway. So, all right.
Real quick before we jump on the next one, I want to ask John Laub. John, how high would you take Rattler in rookie drafts? Is he making it in the 3rd for you, or are you waiting until the 4th? How high would you take him in a rookie draft super flex?
Well, let's super flex. Oh, go ahead, John.
Yeah, super flex. No, I'm looking at my rankings right now, and that's what I'm keeping looking at. And I'm very conservative on late round quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. I will not overpay. Plus, it's not likely that Rattler gets on the field. I have him at number 36 in my super flex rankings. So that puts him right, what's that, the middle of the, no.
Yeah, right to the end of the 3rd round. Mm-hmm.
So
that makes sense to me.
If I was desperate, maybe pick 33, 34, but there's no way I'm putting him in the top 24. There's too much talent at pick number 24, 25 that I like instead.
Yeah, probably in a 2 quarterback, you'd have him on the early 30s. And then, a super flex, probably late 30s, that kind of deal. And then, in 1 quarterback, he's not even an option. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 1 quarterback, I think I have him way down on let me see quickly. You guys are getting an early peek at my 1 quarterback. And let me see. Oh my God, where is he? He's pretty far down here. He's outside of the top 40. So here he is, 43.
Yeah, so he's not even an afterthought. He's not even an afterthought in a 1 quarterback league. I mean, as so, it is what it is. But yeah, we figured that. But that's it is what it is. That's I don't know. I guess I don't know. Let's move the running backs because you guys got me all messed up with Joe Milton.
I don't want to talk about Milton anymore. He's like, you're crushing me.
You're crushing me. So JT, I'll let you. What we'll do now is we'll switch to running backs. We'll start with JT here. Tier 1 running backs. In what order do you prefer these running backs that are going in late 1st, early 2nd rounds of fantasy rookie superflex draft? So what we'll do here is we'll talk about our 4 go-to guys here. We're going to talk about Jonathan Brooks, Trey Benson, or the 3 of them, and Blake Corum. Sorry, I thought we had 4 here. But those are the 3 guys we have in this tier: Jonathan Brooks, Trey Benson, and Blake Corum. So JT, where would you have these 3 guys? I mean, they're for a lot of people would put them in a little cup and kind of, it doesn't matter. They're pretty much the same. Some people have them separated by 5 or 7 or 9 picks I've seen in different drafts. What's your order of these guys?
So most drafts, usually ADP, Jonathan Brooks is RB1. I'm a Trey Benson guy. I have been a Trey Benson guy for a year and a half. He's been my RB1 going into last season. In Devy, he was my RB1. So I'm sticking with him. I love the landing spot in Arizona. He'll be behind James Conner, which I actually think he'll split some reps, but I think he'll learn a lot from James Conner. And I just think I love what the Arizona team is doing on offense. The Marvin Harrison Jr. pick to go with Kyler Murray back healthy. I just like what's happening there. Jonathan Brooks might give you more fantasy points this year. I like the situation better, and I like what Benson brings. I think he's a very underrated pass catcher out of the backfield. Florida State didn't overuse him. They just had a lot of talent. They had a lot of guys they were doing a ton of different things with. And so his stats weren't as high as some other guys. And so people kind of looked past him. I really like him. That 4.39 at the combine sealed it for me. I was like, okay, I thought he was a really good athlete. He sold me on it, and I like the hands. I just think he's underrated as a receiver. There's one tape, I can't remember who they're playing, where he makes a super nice back shoulder catch on the sideline and gets a foot in bounds that you're like, that's not a normal running back. Doesn't even come close to making that catch. He looked like a wide receiver. So Benson's 1 for me. Brooks is number 2. Panthers is a nice landing spot for him just because I think he immediately jumps to RB1 there. I don't think Chuba and Miles Sanders are really fighting him for that spot when he's fully healthy. I think Chuba probably starts as the number 1. I think Brooks takes over by mid-year, and I think Miles Sanders at this point is dust, so it doesn't matter. And then to me, it's Blake Corum number 3. I know some people are really fired up about Blake Corum. I like him. The issue for me is he went to a team who has a running back who does all the stuff he does well, the same, and all the stuff that he's bad at, he's also bad at. So it's like Kyren Williams, he feels like a light Kyren Williams. So I would rather have Williams. I know a lot of people think, oh, man, he's going to steal that job. I don't think so. I think he's going to be the clear-cut backup. Now, Williams gets hurt. Then I like him because he's going to do the same type of things, but it's not like he's a receiving back. It's not like he's a really good passing blocker. And so for me, that's exactly the things that Kyren Williams is very good at. So I'm a little down on Blake Corum, where I know a lot of people like the landing spot. I didn't like it quite as much. So it's Benson, Brooks, Corum for me.
John, how about you? Where do you have these players ranked?
Justin, you and I are on the same page. I have moved Benson up to my top in Superflex. He's my number 12. I think he's worth the first-round pick, especially if you are a playoff team, you have a solid roster, and you are going to get the possibility of a starting running back in an exciting offense. I agree with you. With Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey Benson, and Kyler Murray, you have a very interesting quartet of playmakers. I like Benson, and I was not a Benson guy pre-draft. I had some questions about his vision. Watch the film, and there's some real bad runs. Mm-hmm. I also worried, could he take he never had, I think, over 160 carries in any individual season. But when you spend the 66th pick, beginning of the 3rd round on a running back, he's going to get carries. I do know James Conner's here, but he has missed 4 games each of the first 2 years. I believe he's 28 years old. He's a little older in the tooth now. So I think by 2025, Benson is by far the number 1. So I like him. Jonathan Brooks. Don't love the landing spot. Love the coaching staff. They fed Rachaad White. They should feed Jonathan Brooks. But I'll tell you, I'm very concerned about this. His injury was in November. Optimistic timetable is 9 months. That's about August. Are you really going to feed your 20-year-old running back who's only, first year in the league on a bad team? I think everyone's just overlooking this. I still think there's a chance he's on the PUP list. So I'm putting Jonathan Brooks number 2. And Justin, I agree with you. Corum's my number 3, but I think the distance between the two is closer. I think Corum's a better prospect than Kyren Williams was coming out of Notre Dame. I have him graded higher. And I do think Corum's better. And the Rams spent 3rd-round draft capital on Corum. So that tells me a lot, that they think he's going to be a good player for them because he is older. You're not looking at Corum as a 4-year player, I think. You're looking at a 2-year window. I like Corum a lot.
I think Jonathan Brooks is possibly the best running back in this class. I mean, It's perfect for him because he's starting on a rotation with Hubbard and Sanders, and I think that's the best case scenario for him. As far as Benson's concerned, I mean, same thing. Cardinals another guy who has the advantage of sharing a load with James Conner until he gets up to speed. I mean, those guys are pretty close to the same with me. Blake Corum, though, I think that he as a football player is. I mean, he just feels like a better football player than these two guys. An all-around, more knowledgeable player, better not so much an athlete-wise, but just a smarter football player, a better all-around football player, and that's okay. The other guys have a little bit more talent. He's a little bit more of a heart and knows the game a little bit better. So I'm not sure what the advantage is. I guess they're better have the physical talent, but I think that Corum is going to start out better than Kyron Williams. I think Corum is better than Kyron Williams. So I mean, I'm putting him in the tier that I had was Brooks and then Benson, then Corum. So I'm kind of on the same page with you guys, even though you have your first two reverse. But I think that Corum could have a better season. Let's just say a better initial season, and maybe even next year be better than these two. But these two, I think, dynasty wise, they're going to pass him up. It's going to be the turn the rabbit in the hair kind of thing with these players. So that's the way I look at it anyway. So then we get to the tier 2 running backs. In what order do you prefer these running backs that are going between the second and third rounds of fantasy dynasty superflex drafts? You got Marshawn Lloyd to the Packers, Ray Davis for the Bills, Jalen Wright to the Dolphins, Will Shipley to the Eagles. So we have those four guys. John, why don't you tell me what order do you have these four players in on your rankings?
I think the number one guy is easy, Jalen Wright, going to the Miami Dolphins. I just love the spot. If there was one spot in which he could be successful, and that's a Mike McDaniel offense, I didn't like his vision either, but I love this speed. I love this size. You give him a runway and the young man is gone. Well, what did we see with Devin Achane? We saw a runway on the outside. And when Devin Achane got that runway, he was gone. He's big. He can replace Mostert at the goal line. He's over 200 pounds a lot. I think he's 215. My old man memory serves me, something like that. He's big, strong. I like Jalen Wright a boatload. Then I got Marshawn Lloyd. I liked him. He was my number 5 pre-draft running back. It's a good landing spot, not a great landing spot. It depends on how Josh Jacobs does, but they do have an out. The Packers could get rid of Josh Jacobs in 2025. So it's not like forever. It's not a guarantee that Jacobs is there. So I'll take Jalen Wright there. Then out of the 5 that you've given me, I'm going to go Ray Davis of the Bills. But I don't know what his ceiling is there. I do think he has a limited ceiling in Buffalo. Then I'm going to go Bucky Irvin and then Will Shipley. Those are how I like those. I think Shipley is sneaky good. If you can get him in the 4th round with his all-purpose background, because he should be returning kicks and punts for the Eagles this year. And then he's got sneaky upside in the pass catching. So that's my order there.
So, okay, I got Lloyd here just because of the fact that I'm not sure how much gas left in the tank for Aaron Jones. So I have Marshawn Lloyd as my number 1. Ray Davis of the Bills, he's a good pass catcher, not as good as James Cook is, but he's a good complement player from this. They're like the same cloth. Just gives the offense some versatility. When you bring him back, I think that everybody wanted the Bills to bring in a big back. But this leaves them in an offense where they can have both players on the field no matter what play, and nobody knows what it's going to be. It's going to be up the middle. It's going to be a pass catching. They're both kind of the same player. So a lot of times, like when you put Derrick Henry on the field, most of the time everybody knows it's going to go up the middle. It's going to be a running play or a play action. I think Ray Davis and James Cook are pretty much the same player. So it's a good compliment for their team. Jalen Wright for the Dolphins. I feel like the Dolphins have a type. That's all I'm going to say is that they have. It might work out well until halfway through the season when everybody figures out the playbook, which happens every year with these guys. I'm a Dolphins fan. It's kind of getting old now that, they light up the scoreboard for the first 6 games or 8 games. And then after that, they're scratching their head, figuring out the playbook. They have all these playmakers that are making plays, but then they just kind of something happens. Someone's going to get hurt somewhere, and they could focus on these big playmakers and not to make big plays. I think Jalen Wright's going to be kind of stuck in the same kind of thing like you saw with A-Chain was hurt last year, so it's not really fair to kind of pick on him. But the whole team got clogged up as soon as like halfway through the season because they just couldn't figure out what to do with the players that were healthy. Shipley, the Eagles, I don't understand why they just couldn't stick with Kenny Gainwell. I'm not a big Shipley fan, never have been. I mean, he's a compliment to Saquon, but whatever. It is what it is. So he's my number 3 there. Bucky Irving, Buccaneers, great passing down specialist. I feel like they should have drafted more between the tackles guy instead of a smaller version of Rashad White. But that's the only reason I don't think he's going to get much action for a while. So I guess I'm going to go Lloyd, Davis, Jalen Wright, and Shipley and Bucky Irving as far as my guys are concerned here. So JT, how different are you than me and John?
So my pre-draft rankings, I actually had Lloyd as my RB4, Davis as my RB5, Wright as my RB6. So I had those 3 guys in a row. Jalen Wright, like John said, I think the Dolphins landing spot just kicks him up. It's about the perfect landing spot, the perfect team for his abilities. You put him on a different team, I definitely don't like him as much as the other guys, but I just think that offense, I think they're never going to feed Devin A-Chain all the time. So I think he's going to get some solid work in there. So that pushes right up there. My love for Ray Davis is high. I like Ray Davis slightly over Lloyd here, even though I don't like with Jacobs being to be out. I think that, I think Lloyd's future, especially with him getting 3rd round draft capital, is really nice. So it shows that the Packers liked him. I'm taking Ray Davis slightly above him. I've been high on Ray Davis. I just think he's ready to come in and play right now. And I think he's a different type of running back than James Cook. He's stronger. He hits the hole harder. He does catch the ball well. I think Cook's still their guy, but I think I see Ray Davis stealing some goal line work from him. And I actually think Ray Davis, this is a really good landing spot for him. 4th round draft capital going to the Bills. They're going to need him because they're not going to. Here's the other thing. Cook has had problems holding on the football. He has had some fumble issues. What does Ray Davis do? Not put the ball on the ground. I mean, the guy does not fumble. So I think that helps him a ton. So I really like that spot for him, even though I don't think he steals the number 1 job there from Cook as long as Cook's there, but I do think he gets a lot of play and is good. Lloyd is number 3 for me right now, but I could easily see Floyd jumping up to number 1 in this list within a year. As like John said, if Jacobs doesn't get re-signed or moves on and Lloyd takes over in a year, you're going to be like, oh, I stole him in drafts last year. So he's a guy you might have to wait on, but man, he could be a steal down the line. To me, it's Shipley, then Bucky Irving. Just like John said, Shipley, the special teams play, the receding out of the backfield. I think he has a very good shot to be Barkley's backup and get some touches for the Eagles. So I like that. Bucky Irving, to me, I don't love the landing spot because I feel like Bucky Irving is Rashad White, is Sean Tucker. I feel like they've got 3 running backs and Chase Evans. I feel like they got 4 running backs that are pretty similar players. And so if you'd be like, okay, is Bucky Irving the 3rd down back? He's an okay receiver. He's not great. Doesn't have great hands, but like Rashad White's your 3rd down back. Okay, so is Bucky going to beat him out for 1st and 2nd down carries? I don't think so. So that's what hurts me on Bucky. Even though I like Bucky, I don't love the landing spot. So I'm going right because of the Dolphins landing spot. Ray Davis, Lloyd, Shipley, Irving.
You guys, I don't know why.
And I'm taking all these guys between the 2nd and 3rd round. I'm probably taking Wright in the 2nd. I'm taking Davis in the 3rd. I've been getting him like early 3rd to mid 3rd. Lloyd, most likely you're going to have to go in the 2nd to get him, probably mid to late 2nd to get him. Shipley has been, I think, the guy you can steal. He's been falling in drafts. Like John said, if you can get him in the like early 4th or late 3rd, I think is a great spot to get him. Because I had him in my top 10 RBs in this draft class. So if you can get him that late, I love it.
Yeah. I don't know why I was thinking when I had said earlier about Aaron Jones being there. I don't know why they slipped that out of my mouth as far as that goes. I think I was thinking the 1-year contract of Josh Jacobs because I think that his situation there, it's 1 year and everything else is it looks like it's all erasable after that. So that's I don't know, it was on my mind with, I don't know why Aaron Jones slipped out, but anyway, so let's get to the next area of the tier the running backs here in tier 3. What order do you prefer these running backs? Are they going between 3rd and 4th rounds of your Superflex rookie draft? 33, Tyrone Tracy, Giants, Kamari Vidal, Audric Estime from Notre Dame, Braylon Allen, and Isaac Garendo. So, JT, what do you, as far as these guys are concerned, where do you have these 5 guys slated?
So for these guys, it's a really tough one because of landing spots I don't love. I hated Braylon Allen's landing spot, so I don't like him. Even though Kamani Vidal was a 6th rounder, he actually jumps up to the first guy on this list for me because I love the fact that he's at the Chargers. I think he has a chance to be in the mix there with Gus Edwards and Dobbins. So Kamani Vidal goes up to number 1 for me in this round. I would love to get him in the 4th round of drafts. I've been seeing him go anywhere from mid-3rd to late 3rd to early 4th. So I like him. Braylon Allen, I said I don't love the landing spot, but I'd probably take him number 2. Estime would be 3. Tyrone Tracy probably has a better chance than Gary Endo to start, so I'd probably go Tracy, then Gary Endo. Gary Endo, if he could get on the field, if he ended up working his way into the backup slot behind Christian McCaffrey, he would fly up my list. I just don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, he's got all the ability in the world, but if he ends up being 3rd, 4th on the list for the Niners, I don't love it. So I'm probably taking my shot on Vidal first, Allen second, Estime. Those guys I'd be taking like early 4th to mid 4th round. And then 5th round late, I'd be maybe taking a shot at Tracy and Gary Endo.
The only reason I have this is going to be a kind of a weird situation here because I think Audric Estime definitely has a chance to supplant Javonte Williams here. But I mean, Javonte Williams, I don't think we've really seen the real Javonte Williams yet coming from this injury. So there's a lot of questions there. Same with Vidal. I'm not sure about Dobbins' health. I'm not sure if Dobbins is really healthy. Where does that put Kamani Vidal at? Then maybe they know more than we do. Saying J.K. is healthy, so they didn't draft a running back early. Tyrone Tracy, I think he could win the job from Devin Singletary right from the get-go. So I'm not really sure that – I mean, I might even put him number 1 on this list. If I'm drafting, I mean, I don't want to, but I might put Tyrone Tracy, as far as fantasy is concerned, as my number 1 on this list, and then Vidal, and then Estime, and then Braylon Allen, who I liked a lot, but he could not have landed in a worse spot, A, with the starter, and then, B, with the backup. I think he is – everybody knows my love for Israel Benakanda, but it is what it is. And then Garendo, I think he's just fool's gold. I think the guy didn't have much touches in college. He wasn't much for he ran a good 40 time. He's a good sized kid for his athletic specimen, but we've seen that before. Athletic specimens coming to the NFL and not panning out. So I got Tracy number 1 here. It might seem kind of crazy, but as far as fantasy is concerned, we're worried about points on your fantasy football team. Not so much just the talent from the players. So, John, where are you at these guys?
My number 1 out of this list is Kamani Vidal. I just think the landing spot is so enticing. I have no interest in J.K. Dobbins, and I love them coming out, but the injuries have just taken their toll. Gus Edwards is what Gus Edwards is, very limited upside. I know Kamani Vidal is coming out of G5 school, but we know exactly what Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman are going to do. They're going to run the football. Vidal is an uber pass blocker. He's a above average pass catcher. He's a 3-down back. I love him completely. I think if you get him in the 3rd, it's a steal, but he might be – the buzz is hard and heavy right now. You might have to get him in the 2nd. Then I like, based on landing spot, I'm going to go Audric Estime. I think there's a chance that he could get significant carries in that Denver offense. After that, I have to go Tyrone Tracy. I'm going on pass catching upside. Devin Singletary is right now the only one who looks like he's going to get touches in the backfield. I do think they got Tracy in for special teams, but how much can Devin Singletary do on that team? And then it's Garindo and Allen. I guess I like Braylon Allen better than Garindo, but I understand Garindo sitting in that Shanahan number 2 if he can beat out Elijah Mitchell, which I'm not sure he can. So I think it's a tough decision, but I go Allen over Garindo.
Yeah, that's a weird list right there. That's the weirdest list we've had so far. A lot of intangibles in those 5 players. So, all right, let's shift gears a little bit to the wide receivers now. What order do you prefer these wide receivers that are going in the top of the first round? Now, it's Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, and Rome Odunze. So, John, where do you have these 3 guys at?
Sorry, gentlemen. I have 3 Huskies and they were barking, so I'm trying to keep the sound off on mute. I apologize for that. This is the easiest decision. Maybe it's easy to me. I have it. Neighbors, Harrison, and Odunze. I think that Neighbors is being overlooked in the Giants. He's going to be targeted just so heavily. He might get 150 in that system. If Daniel Jones fails, they bring in a new quarterback. That means the coach Dayball probably gets fired, and Malik becomes a number 1 guy. The other part is Harrison has more competition for targets. They have a better offense around him, and they have a running quarterback who will steal goal line or red zone carries and touchdowns. And then you just have to be patient. I think Odunze will be a total stud in 2025. They're not going to bring back DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. I would expect one of them to be back in 25, mostly DJ Moore, but I love Odunze there.
JT.
I'm on Harrison just because of the offense. I know that he's going to fight with McBride and some guys for targets. I still think he's going to end up being the number 1. I like him because Kyler Murray. I want a quarterback that I know is going to be there. I think they're going to have a shot to be together. Harrison's been my number 1 guy for 2 years now. I had him in every Devy league when people are like, what are you doing? Who is this guy? I was taking him when he was a freshman in Devy leagues. I just love him. I love the landing spot with Arizona. So he's my 1. Neighbors is my 2. I think, like John said, who knows how many targets he could get? It could be 1 million. He really could. He could get 1 million targets. I mean, we're talking about is it Steve Slayton that's led him in receiving 4 straight years or something? Steve Slayton
with like 45
has led them in
catches.
4. I mean, it's crazy. He's led him for 4 straight years in receiving. Like, Neighbors is better than every wideout they have on that roster combined. Like,
there's no Saquon.
Yeah,
and the tight end is I don't even think he's going to go to training camp.
They're going to be behind in every game. They're going to be losing. Yes. He is going to put up crazy stats. They're going to throw the ball to him. It's going to be those situations where they're just going to be forcing the ball and double teams to him. They don't care. He's going to see a ton of targets. So I love Neighbors for that reason. And Odunze, just like John said, I love Odunze. I think you're going to have to wait a year on him. I think he's going to be really good, but I just don't think he's going to give you high fantasy production this season. But I think he's going to learn a ton from Keenan Allen and a ton from DJ Moore. If you're willing to wait, I love it. If you have a team that's a win now team and you're already loaded and you're like, hey, I can wait on this guy, I love Odunze because I think he's going to be a stud in the future.
Yeah, I'm not really. You can't really cross the line in the sand and say Marvin Harrison is going to be better than Malik Neighbors or Malik Neighbors is going to be better than Marvin Harrison because they're both going to get peppered with targets. I mean, Neighbors is the only game in town. And like I had 7,000 targets written on my show sheet here, and you guys said 1 million and something, so we're all on the same page there as far as that goes. I guess the best answer here is if you have like pick 2 or 3 or, I guess not 1 and 2. If you had pick 3, trade back to like pick 5 and try and get Rome Odunze and get an extra pick with that, because he's going to be, if he could go to practice and learn from DJ Moore and Keenan Allen for this year, at practice, watching the route running perfection that Keenan Allen runs like a 4.7, and he runs these awesome routes. He's open all the time. If Odunze can learn from these 2 professionals, he's going to be great, and to start off with a good quarterback too, that gets him the ball. It's kind of a toss up I wouldn't know to put Neighbors or Harrison number 1 or 2. I'm going to just call that a tie. And I'm going to obviously Rome Odunze is my number 3 here. So We'll switch to the next tier wide receivers, tier 2. So we have Ladd McConkey, Xavier Worthy, and Brian Thomas Jr. So that being the case, John, why don't you take us into wide receiver 2 category? What do you want here? How do you have them ranked?
They've changed a little bit after the draft, and this is why landing spot is so important. Quarterback is so important. Offensive system is so important. I've got to put Xavier Worthy at the top right now. I'm just sorry. He's tethered to Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Look at what Andy Reid did with Deshaun Jackson in Philadelphia and what he did with Tyreek Hill in Kansas City. I do not think Xavier Worthy is necessarily as good as either of those 2 wide receivers, but he's in the bucket. And if things turn out right, he could be that good. So I have Worthy there. Then it's going to be Brian Thomas. And people can argue the quarterback, but Trevor Lawrence, he's not hit his ceiling. He hasn't been as good as we hoped coming out of the draft, but he's got 46 touchdowns in the last 2 years with back-to-back 4,000-yard seasons. He's still learning. I still think there's room for growth. I don't give up on Trevor Lawrence yet. So you drop him, Brian Thomas, with Trevor Lawrence. He has Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram to cover out the medium and low zones. And I joke with everyone. They said Brian Thomas only ran 3 routes at LSU. And I said, yeah, but he ran those 3 routes better than anyone I've ever seen. So I'm okay with him running the post and the deep out and just dominating the boundary. And then it's Ladd McConkey. And McConkey's interesting. I do have concerns if he can stay on the field. He never did at Georgia. So that's a challenge. Plus, you do have a Greg Roman and a Harbaugh offense. Now, I did some research because I wanted to make sure I knew what I was talking about. In San Francisco, when Harbaugh was there from 2011 to 2014, the first 2 years, Michael Crabtree led the 49ers in receiving, and he was pretty good. Then they brought in veteran Anquan Bolden, and he was even better for the 49ers. So there is upside in Harbaugh's offense. He could finish top 25. His only challenger for targets right now is Quentin Johnson, who just put together one of the awful rookie seasons you could imagine. So I do like Ladd McConkey, but in order, Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas, Ladd McConkey, based on landing spot with the quarterbacks and the system. Even though I like Herbert. I mean, McConkey got a good quarter. They all got pretty good quarterbacks.
Yeah, I was going to say, John, this is one of my favorite places to be in the draft. Late first, early second, because I love all 3 of these guys. First off, because I love the landing spot for every one of them, and I love the quarterbacks they're tied to. It's fantastic. So I'm a little bit different, John, just because I like Brian Thomas for the high upside of him. I think right now, he's not going to be your wide receiver 1, but man, if this guy just keeps improving, I think he could be dynamic. I love Trevor Lawrence. I like him. If you're willing to wait on it a minute, I think Brian Thomas has the highest upside of these 3 players. So Brian Thomas is number 1 for me. I'm going Worthy. This was tough. I take this back. I'm actually going McConkey 2, Worthy 3. And here's what I'll tell you why. I like Worthy. I think he's in the best situation. My issue with him is how much Mahomes spreads the ball around. How much is he going to get fed? Now, he could get fed a lot like a Tyreek Hill, but he could not. If he ends up becoming Deshaun Jackson, home run. You hit a home run with him if he's Deshaun Jackson. But here's what I love about Ladd McConkey. The downside is I don't think he has the high side of Worthy and Thomas, but I love the floor. I think he easily has a shot to be the number 1 wide receiver on this team. I like Herbert. I don't think they're going to throw a lot in LA. They're just not. They've shown you they know neither of those coaches like to throw. So they're not going to throw a million targets, but I think McConkey has the shot to be their number 1. if he can stay healthy, like John said. So I like McConkey just because I love the floor. I think he's going to solidly give you points every week. Is he going to give you game winning points, like, scoring you 35? Probably not, but I think can be easily a 15 point a game fantasy player to 13 to 15. I think he'll be solid in there. So I'm Thomas 1 just because I love the upside. I think he pretty quickly by year 2 or 3 becomes the number 1 for Trevor Lawrence. So I like that. I'm going McConkey 2, and I'm going Worthy 3 with the thought that Worthy is probably the safer, has the higher upside than Ladd. But if I'm on a team that needs production this year, I'm taking Ladd because I think he's going to have that nice floor where he's just going to get me points every week. But I think Worthy's more explosive. He'll win you weeks. You're going to have some monster games out of Worthy.
Yes, that's what I have McConkey number 1. I just feel like he's going to move in the slot, and he's going to be the dump off guy. He'll get the most targets on this team, I think. Worthy, I think, is a best ball player, and Brian Thomas is my number 3 because I think there's just, I hear a lot of the, Gabe Davis comparisons on it, and I'm not really sold on that. I don't think they're the same guy, but I do think that there's going to be a learning curve for Brian Thomas in the NFL. But I have him McConkey, Worthy, and then Brian Thomas. That's the order I have him in. Just that's just the way I feel. I think McConkey's going to get the most here. I think, like I said, Xavier Worthy, I think, is going to be a best ball player. That's where I draft him more in best ball for sure. But in real startup leagues, PPR leagues, McConkey, Worthy, and then Brian Thomas. So we'll do one more tier of wide receivers here, and then we'll jump to tight ends. And I know we're getting close to time here. So we got Keon Coleman, Ricky Pearsall, Adonai Mitchell, and Xavier Legette. JT, you want to start with these guys?
Yeah, I'll go quick. For this group for me, I'm going Coleman because of the Bills' landing spot. Legette for me, number 2, because I like the opportunity there with the Panthers. I think he could be either number 2 behind Deontay Johnson. I'm going AD Mitchell 3, Pearsall 4. I'm worried about Pearsall's role with the Niners. AD Mitchell is going to be a total hit or miss guy. Can he be that deep stud that AR can hit, or is he going to be that guy that's going to be total hit and miss? Is he the next Gabe Davis? I'm a little worried about that. So Keon Coleman, strictly because he's on the Bills, for me, is the first tier. Legette 2, Mitchell 3, Pearsall 4, and that's how I'm going.
John, how about you?
Going to go with the quarterback. And I was not high on this young man in the pre-draft process. I felt he didn't get enough separation. And I thought that he didn't give me the alpha male production. But I can't ignore the draft capital, and he's catching passes from Josh Allen. End of the day, Keon Coleman's my number 1. I would prefer that he plays in the slot or on the Z than the X, but it looks like the Bills are determined to stick him on the X. So that's a little concerning, but I can't ignore the landing spot. They love him. They targeted him. So I'm going to go against my pre-draft and just believe that the Bills are going to use him in the correct way. Then I have Ricky Pearsall. I don't know how long the 49ers are going to keep on the roster Brandon Ayuk and Dabo Samuel. I was thinking my college football coach. Sorry. So what they're going to have there is I think one of them moves on by 2025. That would assume that Pearsall is going to step up into a nice, very nice starting position with Shanahan, with the young quarterback in Brock Purdy. Then I have Xavier Legette. I'm a little lower on some than others, but I'll put him here. And I said I will have no Bazooka Joe. I think part of giving advice in Dynasty is who to avoid. I will have 0 Adonai Mitchell. 0. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't care. I'm not taking the risk. Let someone else take them. I just will not have any AD Mitchell.
I agree with that.
I was going to jump in with you too on that. AD was a guy I was totally out on before the draft. I'm a cold season ticket holder, so I'm trying to talk myself into him. But I'm like when they took him, I was like, oh, I'm real nervous because I feel like he's one of those guys with all the talent, everything you want, and then every week you're like, why did he have 0 catches this week? Like, I'm very nervous about AD Mitchell, and I'm only taking him in drafts if he falls pretty far.
Okay, I got Coleman number 1. I just the landing in Buffalo. I wish they would have got a better wide receiver than Keon Coleman, but it is what it is, and there's tons of passes to go around there. So I'm going to put Keon Coleman once just because of the opportunity. Mitchell, I'm the kind of guy that says, yeah, he had jumped around a lot, a whole bunch of different schools, had some, said he was kind of immature. Going to the pros, they'll have a schedule for that. They'll get him in check. They'll have him, taking his diabetes medicine. They'll take him all that stuff like that. It won't be a problem anymore. I think with these guys, whatever kind of knucklehead stuff they did before, they were immature, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to give Adonai Mitchell the benefit of the doubt here, put him number 2, just because I think Ricky Pearsall is, he had one big circus catch. Other than that, I mean, he didn't really do too. I'm not a big Ricky Pearsall fan. I'll just put it that way. He didn't show me too much, and I think people just made him so much popular because of his awesome catch that he had in the highlight film. Leggett is my number 4. I'm not a Leggett fan either, so we'll just leave it at that. I know we're kind of in a hurry here, so I'm going to leave mine in order, but. Let's jump to tight ends here because I know
John. Real quick before we go to tight ends, because I want to hear John's talk on these tier 4 wide receivers. Let's just let him run through his list on this tier 4 because I know he loves Javon Baker, and I want to hear who he likes in this group because I like a lot of the guys in this group, and I'm like thinking about who I want to take in this group in the 3rd and 4th round.
I like this group too. I'm going to go straight off my rankings that should be available tomorrow on Player Profiler. I think Troy Franklin's going to be a really nice deal. I like him landing in Denver with Bo Nix, and I think he provides Denver with a much-needed deep threat. So I have Troy Franklin at number 20. Then I have Roman Wilson at 25 and Javon Baker at 26. Malachi Corley at 28. I'm not in love with Malachi Corley. He's a yak guy. His ADOT was awful. I'm not a big guy. Oh, I forgot. I've actually moved. Let me see. Where do I have now Jermaine Burton? Oh, I have him at 21, right behind Troy Franklin. That's how much I love being tethered to Joe Burrow in that offense, playing in the slot as a vertical threat. So Franklin 20, Jermaine Burton 21, Roman Wilson 25, Javon Baker 26, Corley 28.
Just want to name your 5 real fast to put them in order, JT?
Yeah, I'm very similar. I'm taking Franklin, I'm taking Wilson, I'm taking Baker, then I'm taking Burton only because I'm a little concerned about him. I'm taking Corley, and then I'm probably taking Jalen Polk before Corley just because of the landing spot.
Yeah, mine are pretty much the same as John. So let's move the tight ends real fast. We'll get these out of the way. We're assuming that Brock Bowers is number 1, so we're not going to go with him. We have Sanat, Jatavian Sanders, Theo Johnson, Cade Stover, Eric All, and Jared Wiley. So, John, tell us, or JT, why don't you start here with the tight ends?
Yeah, so real quick for me, I actually like this group not as much as I liked last year's group, but I think you could get some value here. I like Ben Sinnott a lot. I'm really surprised he got 2nd-round draft capital. My big worry is Cliff Kingsbury's never really used tight ends, and I'm little worried that he's going to be on the field, but you're never going to see anything out of him. He's going to play a lot of H-back. He's going to block a lot. So I'm a little worried. I still would take him, but I'm not taking him unless he drops to me in middle of the 3rd round. Jatavian Sanders, 4th-round pick. I would take him, but again, I'm probably waiting to the 4th on Sanders. He's my 2nd guy. I actually love the Cade Stover landing spot in Houston because he's with his boy CJ Stroud. He was great for Stroud. I think he could take over for Dalton Schultz eventually. I was a little worried about his size and blocking, but I like Stover, especially because he's on Houston. So he jumps up to 3 for me in this group. Theo Johnson is 4, got all the size. If Waller retires, Theo's got a great opportunity to be the tight end 1 there. Eric All is after that for me. I like Eric All. He's been banged up a ton. He's got all the athletic ability. If he can somehow pull it together and stay healthy, he has every opportunity to be the Bengals' number 1 tight end. He could easily beat out Mike Gesicki for that spot. So he's a guy I'm absolutely taking a flyer late 4th or 5th round in drafts, if he gets to me, I'm taking Eric All because I think he could end up being a steal.
John?
I have Ben Sinnott pretty high. He's my number 2 tight end. I do think, though, I tend to wait at tight ends. So I'm not going to have I think he's going to go in the top 24. I really do. And I haven't ranked at number 35, and I really like him. But what's his ceiling in that Commanders offense with Jaden Daniels? So I just have him lower than his ADP. But I like Ben Sinnott. He's my number 2 pre-draft, and he had a good landing spot. I'm telling you the guy I'm going to have a ton of. It's Cade Stover, man. I got him in the 5th round in 2 drafts already. He landed in an ideal spot. From what I've read, CJ Stroud wanted Stover. Kind of banged on the table a little bit for Stover. I think that's a great landing spot in Houston, so I'm going to have a lot of him. Then I have Jatavian Sanders. Man, this Bryce Young and this Panthers team, how much am I going to invest in the Carolina Panthers at the quarterback I have no confidence in? So I don't think I have a lot. And then Eric All. Hey, if he's 100% healthy, he ended up landing in Cincinnati. Man, it is a home run spot, but I'm not 100% convinced on his health. So I have him lower. So that's how I have him. Then Jared Wiley would be the last one. I mean, I think he's just another guy in Kansas City. I think they have 3 guys right now behind Travis Kelce, and I don't think either one will be the star down the road.
I got Sinnott, Theo Johnson. I think Waller's gone. I think he could beat out Bellinger right from the get-go. And then 3, Cade Stover, Jatavian Sanders 4, Eric All 5, and Wiley last. So that's where my JT knows my love for Theo Johnson. So that's not. It may be a little biased on my part, but that's where I have him at anyway. So, anything else you want to add to these tiers, John, before we take off?
No, I just want to say first, thank you for having me on. It's been unbelievable. I love unveiling the tiers. And there are so many players. Try to get into the top 36. I think you're in a pretty good spot. Don't be afraid to move up. Don't trade away number 1s next year. Number 1s are always too valuable. They get more valuable. Just think the difference, folks. Last year, what people were saying your number 1 was worth, and what is the number 1 worth right now? They have increased in value. Hold on to those number 1s. There is too much time. Too many players are going to rise. Too many things change. But try to get into those top 3 rounds, as many as you can. Take some shots.
Took me a long time to learn not to trade my number 1s away, but I learned my lesson the hard way. So I like trading. You get
one player we did not discuss, a sleeper who's no longer a sleeper, but I've loved him throughout this process. Luke McCaffrey. If you can get him in the 4th round, it's a steal.
He has been dropping in a few of my drafts. I've seen him go like early 4th, and I agree. I think he has a shot to actually make that, get in that starting lineup. But if you can get a starter in the 4th round of a rookie draft, man, you got to freaking love that.
They spent the 3rd round pick.
And they took him over they took him over Troy Franklin. If you love Troy Franklin, you got to look at Luke McCaffrey and be like, hey, freaking Commanders liked him more than Luke McCaffrey, and they liked him more than Javon Baker. So they must really like him.
He's a big dude, 6'2", 200 pounds, man. Hey, just through 3rd round draft capital. Yeah, you gotta go after guys like that, man. So, all right, John, thanks a lot. I want to tell everybody on the way out where they can find you at.
Yes, thank you very much again. Gridiron Skull 91. I couldn't afford the A and the R when I signed up. I have my 2 beautiful puppies, my female huskies, just came into the room. So I got to give them some petting. So I was looking down for a little bit. They're like, come on, Daddy. And then find all my written profiles and, most importantly, my fantastic freshman post-draft rankings with super flex and 1 quarterback. I have the super 60 for each. Check them out. They should be out tomorrow on Player Profiler.
Dude, those freshman rankings are the best. Like absolute gold. I check those out every year before I do any of my other drafts. Those are pure gold. You guys got to check those out. If you do any kind of college stuff, you got to get in on those.
First thing I said when I told JT I got John Laub on there, he goes, "Yes, I love his college stuff." So, yeah.
I was like, we got to have him back and do a college show, John. I was like, we got
yes, over the summer.
We got to do a Devy
All
show.
right.
I'm trying to get John into these Devy C2C leagues. He's never really played before. I'm just bringing him in. I'm like, he's like, we got to get him back for a C2C league talk. Get all the good stuff.
John, I'll tell you how fun Devy is. One team, I had Rome Odunze and Malik Neighbors. I just promoted them to my NFL roster. We can only promote 2. I had Trey Benson. I had to throw him back in the pool.
No.
That's how amazing my draft was last year out of the 8-hole. I drafted Malik Robinson at 1-8, Rome Odunze at 2-8, Trey Benson at 3-8. And I just can't keep the running back over 2 top 10 wide receivers.
You're scaring me and not playing. What are you doing?
No, it's the best. Like John said, I have a league that I had Marvin Harrison, Brock Bowers, and Trey Benson on my C2C team. Now they're all on my NFL team, and I look like a stud because I'm like, I just got 3 top 10 picks all just on my NFL team. All of a sudden, my team looks a million times better in one season. I love it.
I'm getting there. JT's reeling me into the IDP world. He's leading me into the KC.
I'm getting him into everything.
Pretty soon, I'm going down the rabbit hole. We'll all go fishing together, guys. Don't worry about it.
And John, on another team, I had your man Ray Davis. I had Luke McCaffrey and Jonathan Brooks as late round guys who I now have all at the NFL.
Absolutely outstanding.
You should play, John. You'll love it.
I'll be there one day. Don't worry. I'll be there, guys. I'll have Joe Milton in the league, too.
You'll have Bazooka Joe.
All right, John. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being here on the Fantasy and Frames show, Dynasty Evaluation. JT, where can everybody find you at?
Yeah, guys, find me at JT Orange on the X or Twitter. If you're looking at IDP rankings, any of that stuff, any kind of rookie drafts, all kinds of content over on DLF. I've got my new updated IDP rankings since the draft. Those have changed quite a bit where landing spots are, so check out that. My new top 150 IDP rankings will be out this week, and then all kinds of rookie articles, all kinds of stuff out there. So check those out. And then if you're sticking around and you're an IDP guy, like I said, shoot the gap later tonight with me and Jorge. We will be going through our favorite landing spots for IDP rookies after the draft. So check us out. I think 10 Eastern time on that show.
Right before that, Fantasy and Frames draft, rookie draft show. Right, we got a live draft show going on. We don't stop here, boys. We don't stop. Thanks for joining us. Dynasty Evaluation, Fantasy and Frames. Have a good night.